This is my first video of the year, really, so Happy New Year to everyone. I'm feeling a little bit, what's the word? A little bit all over the place. It's taken me forever to get set up, but I think we're going to go with this for now. I think this will have to do. So a couple of months ago, I picked up the brand new Apple MacBook Pro 14-inch, and I've made a few videos about this because I genuinely love it. It is my favorite laptop or computer in general that I have ever used. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, I'll try and link a couple up there. Might be that side, can't remember which. But if you haven't seen them, go and check them out, because hopefully if you are thinking of buying the MacBook Pro 14-inch, they might help you out. In this video though, I don't really want to talk about the MacBook specifically. I want to talk about how it powers my whole desk setup behind me and how I've used that as like the central command center of my desk setup behind me, because I've recently spent a lot of time changing this whole YouTube studio around again. This is an old bedroom in my house and I've spent a lot of time changing it around yet again, because I do that quite a lot. But I'm going to do a whole YouTube studio tour at some point very soon, so if that's something you might be interested in, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that out. But in this video, I'm going to talk about that desk setup. Now, as I've already mentioned, the computer that I use for absolutely everything is the MacBook Pro 14-inch, and it is the cheapest one you can buy as well, the very base spec of the 14-inch MacBook Pro. Now, I would highly recommend the cheapest model of this laptop to absolutely anyone, unless you are working on some absolutely huge projects. Maybe you're editing 8K videos. If you are editing genuinely big projects, then I would maybe upgrade to a more powerful M1X MacBook. But for the vast majority of people, the cheapest 14-inch MacBook Pro is going to be absolutely perfect, and it is just not going to give you any trouble at all. So that is the computer that I use to power absolutely everything on my desk. Now, the monitor that I connect the MacBook to is a 32-inch 4K Philips monitor. I've forgotten the exact code title name of it, but it's Philips, it's 4K, and it's 32 inches. My absolute favorite thing about this monitor though is that it is a USB-C monitor. So what that means is I can take a Thunderbolt cable and plug one end into my MacBook and then plug the other end into the monitor, and that is all I need to do to be able to transfer all the data to the monitor, use the MacBook with the monitor, and charge the MacBook at the same time. It is so good. Now, Thunderbolt cable is quite expensive. I think it's about 30 quid and it's like that big. It's not very big at all, but it is so useful because that is the only cable you need to do absolutely everything. There's no HDMI, there's no USB-Cs, there's no SCART leads like in the old days. SCART leads, do you remember them? That one Thunderbolt cable does absolutely everything, and it just means you've not got cables lying around everywhere. It is clean, simple, quick. I love it. Now, the monitor itself isn't my favorite. It's not as good as the display on the MacBook. So for that reason, when I'm doing things like color grading, I usually tend to do that on the MacBook. So I would do the main edit on the desktop display, on the Philips desktop display, and then switch over to my MacBook to be able to do all the color grading, because the colors on the MacBook Pro display are insane. So that's usually what I would do. The other thing I do as well is, instead of using the MacBook in clamshell mode over there on that MacBook vertical stand, what I would sometimes do is use the monitor as a second display, so I can then edit the colors on my MacBook display and have everything else showing up there on the bigger display. And so it just gives you a few different workflows, and you can choose the one that works best for you. Now, either side of the display, I have two monitor speakers, and these are the PreSonus Eris or Iris. I'm not really sure how you say it, but they are 3.5 inch in size, and they're fairly small, although they are bigger than I was expecting them to be. So they take up quite a bit of space, even though they are fairly small, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm making any sense at all. But these are absolutely brilliant for when you are doing things like video editing, because they plug straight into my MacBook. I don't ever use Bluetooth speakers when I'm editing video because you get a slight delay. So making short, sharp, precise cuts when you are video editing with Bluetooth speakers or headphones is very, very difficult. So I'd highly recommend using a direct, what's the word? I would highly recommend plugging speakers into your device that you are doing your video editing on. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't ever use Bluetooth speakers to edit video. They're also absolutely brilliant for doing things like music production, which I don't do a huge amount of, but I do occasionally do a little bit of it. So they're very useful for that. I love these speakers. I usually just listen to music through them as well. They sound very good. And they're fairly cheap as well. I think it was like 70 quid for both of them. So that's really not bad at all for a pair of Monero speakers. Now the mouse I use is the Apple Magic Mouse 2, and I use this just because it's my favorite mouse really. I absolutely love how it feels in the hand. It's nice and easy to use. You can use it to do different functions like swiping through different pages. It just feels really nice. It's very easy to use, and it connects instantly to the MacBook as well when you open up to try and connect it. And the keyboard I use is the Apple Magic Keyboard. Again, the same reasons. I just like the Apple keyboards, I guess. But as well, I did go for the black versions just because it kind of suits the aesthetic of everything that I want to go with on my desk. I like darker colours, so I went with the Magic Mouse and the Magic Keyboard. And the keyboard and mouse are sat on a very cheap desk mat from Amazon. It costs literally like 5 quid, but it looks cool because it's got a print of the world on it, a world map. So it looks cool, and it's black, and fits perfectly. It fits that space perfectly, which was why I went for that specific one. Also, what I like about it is that it is perfect for doing things like product photography and top-down shots because it looks cool. I forgot to mention that vertical MacBook Pro stand over there that my MacBook Pro is vertically standing in is an Omaton vertical MacBook Pro stand. How many more times can I say vertical? But that was very cheap from Amazon. It cost literally like 15 quid. And it just means that my MacBook can stand over there, out of the way. I can plug everything in that I need to, and I've not got to worry about anything else. It looks neat, it's out of the way. And the way it's stood as well also means I have access to the SD card slot on the MacBook Pro 14-inch, which is my favorite feature on the brand new MacBook Pro 14-inch. So good to have that back. It should never have gone away, but it's good to have it back, and it's good to have it vertically stood over there with easy access. And dotted around as well, just to fill up some space and to make it look cool, I have a little green plant and some camera gear. Currently I've got Holly's camera sat there because I'm using my camera, but my camera usually sits under there as well. So that is my 14-inch MacBook Pro desktop setup. It's very clean, very simple, very efficient, which is everything that I almost want in a desktop setup. I don't want to be faffing around with cables. I don't want clutter everywhere. This just works for me. It might work for you. Hopefully it gives you some ideas if you're thinking of creating your own desk setup with a MacBook or a laptop, or just a desk setup in general. So that is it for this video. Very soon I'm going to be doing a tour of this whole YouTube studio so you can see how I have it set up to create different angles and what I've done to change it around to be able to have everything set up with easy access so I can easily make videos as quickly and efficiently as possible. So if that's something you want to see, don't forget to click that subscribe button just down below there. It might be that side. I think it's that side. But don't forget to click subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I shall see you all very soon in the next video. Changed it around again to be able to have it set up how I want it, to be able to have different angles. What am I doing here? I'm really having a nightmare filming this video.